This is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior level executives, and C-suite share their ideas. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders share ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number 1. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Hey, Stacy. I'm an engineer by trade who moved into digital product management early in my career. I've had the privilege of leading teams in big company cultures such as Goldman Sachs and Northwestern Mutual, as well as startup cultures. Through LearnVest, Sterling, I even had my own startup that was eventually acquired. So really been on both sides of the fence from big companies and startups. Today, I spend my time getting jazzed about teaching folks about product management, digital disruption through workshops and real life case scenarios. I'm also advising large companies and startups on how to think differently and disrupt themselves and their cultures. And I'm very, very passionate about inspiring thousands across the country via keynote talks at digital conferences and podcasts like this amazing one I'm on today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We're really excited to have you, and we're excited to hear some of your ideas today. Sounds like you've got a lot of experiences that you'll be pulling from, which is really one of the most important things for our guests as we select them, is that they've actually come from the world of having carried the bag before. You know, we really want you to have been in the seat of knowing what it's like to choose between, paying payroll and getting things done on time, and or the bigger initiatives of how do you move 5,000-10,000 people in initiative towards a direction. So really excited about that background and expertise you'll be able to bring to the table for us. Question number 2, what's the best thing about leading people from your perspective? When you think about the best thing, what's that?
Yeah, the best thing about leading people for me personally is the knowledge and power you get through relationships. To be honest with you, I think relationships are just so undervalued these days, especially in the world of digital. It's so easy to resort to text and IM. I have a rule for myself, Stacy. Every single day, I block out 2 30-minute coffee chats, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. I drink a lot of coffee, whether that's good or bad. But these chats are really designed for informal one-on-ones. Sometimes it's with people on my team, but mostly it's people that are not on my team. And it's really about learning about, and there's no structure to these meetings. Usually I like to leave the office workspace and go for a walk. And the point of these are to really learn about the person, learn about what their interests are. What really comes out of this relationship, and when you're leading people in this way, is some of their wants, needs, desires, the challenges they're having. And for me personally, it makes me a very well-rounded person, right? I think about how to help my team get through roadblocks, learn from different perspectives. Sure, the formal meetings are great and are important, but nothing beats these coffee chats for me personally, because it really strives on building that face-to-face relationship and really getting behind the scenes on some of the challenges the team might be having.
Oh, I love that. You're hitting at the core of everything. Get to know the person, and then you'll have a much better chance of influencing. I love that. Question number 3. I often hear from leaders that business would be great if it weren't for that pesky people part. Tell us your thoughts about that.
Pesky people. The best ideas and products are built when you collaborate. Unless you work at Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you probably aren't using your business or product every 5 minutes, right? Fun fact, we use our phone 2,168 times a day. I read that stat the other day. And, unless you're working at some of those cutting edge companies where it is about that real-time interaction, don't get married to your product, your idea, because ironically, we're building it for somebody else who's more of a day-to-day user. So I always remind people on my team, it's important to bring other people's perspective. It'll make your business more grounded and complete. Listen, life's not perfect, right? You're going to face people that are supporters and also people that disagree with you at times. But it's important to bring all of those thoughts in your process as you think of your business holistically, right? I have 2 young kids, Stacy, and I remind them all the time, not everyone's going to love you, but it's important to take the lessons that you learn from someone when they give you critical feedback on how to improve it. So it's, for me, in a nutshell, never get married to your business or your product, and think of things from a different perspective and welcome it, bring it in, and really dissect and think from a holistic standpoint how you would change, what would you change. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to change your strategy, but at least thinking that through and having that perspective helps you make it more well-rounded.
I love it. It's making, you're making it sound like a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
That leadership, like both ebbs and flows, and that you're giving and you're taking. And so I really love that kind of, putting yourself into that seat with them as opposed to, being up on high sort of idea from a
Yeah, and I
leadership
would say, Stacey,
perspective.
especially as leaders, a lot of times your peers is where that happens, right? Bringing in those peer perspectives that, I want to go left, but a peer wants to go right. It's good to kind of really talk those things through and think of them together.
I love it. Question number 4. What other successful business leaders like yourself should be on the podcast? Who else do you think people would love to hear from?
I think that your podcast is amazing. I think you need to include more folks from the technology community. The world is becoming more blended between business and technology. I ask many companies that I work with, are you a services company or a technology company? They're like, I think we're a technology company, or at least we want to be, right? That line has gotten so gray. And I think that a great complement to this podcast series would be bringing in business leaders from the tech community. So thank you for inviting me. But I think there's many that I think are, and there's many business in general that are just ripe for digital disruption. So giving that technology lens from a leadership would be great for the podcast. Specifically, I would recommend folks from cutting edge startups like Nisfrom from Alpha UX here in New York, the founders, the beautiful and amazing ladies at Her Product Lab. They're really gearing at building a product community for women, one-day summits all around women, workshops and inspirational chats. Alexa Von Tobel, who's a great mentor of mine, who's working at a VC with Inspired Capital. So a lot of that. I would also tap into the great minds of entrepreneurs. The funny thing is, we think of the word business as a typical business. That's changed quite a bit, Stacey. A lot of the great mindset and thinking are actually coming from these entrepreneurs, and that's the fastest growing business in today's environment. So I would tap into minds like Candace O'Brien, Thorne Ernstine, Brian Shapiro, a lot of entrepreneurs in the space of technology that are just disrupting and bringing that different lens of leadership.
All right, I'm going to give you a minute for this question. Question 5, what piece of advice about communication would you give to other leaders?
Uh, Be a good listener, period. Too many times leaders end up having that one-way dialogue. I love to do workshops. It's one of my favorite things with the team. No PowerPoints, no structure, sticky notes, whiteboards, markers, thinking through ideas together. That beautiful approach really kind of brings ideas. I also take a step back and let the team kind of communicate themselves and co-create and think problems through. The second bit I'd add to this is just be empathetic. It's important as a leader to think of ideas as a team. And in my one-on-ones, I ask a lot of open-ended questions. Why do you feel that way? How would you tackle it? What are some ideas that bother you? What have you thought you've done well? A lot of these types of questions help elaborate and provoke thought for the team, but also for myself on where I should position conversations, and makes me look like a great trusted partner for the team.
I love it. All right, last question for you, Vivek. Question 6, tell us about your favorite boss or teacher.
Yeah, my favorite boss or teacher, I would say Alexa Von Tobel. She's such a dynamic personality. She's such a go-getter. She was the CEO that I reported to back at my LearnVest days. She created a fintech that was really disrupting money management and financial management. What I learned from her that was key is storytelling. Storytelling is so important. You need to position your story, whether it's your team, clients, investors, even on an interview, right? You need to be able to motivate, inspire, and tap into that emotional component of folks. And really that helps build a better story and a brand for yourself. So I'm so thankful for that lesson that I've learned, and I use it day in and day out in my personal and professional life.
Well, you've done a great job with it today, kind of taking us through a little bit of a journey and, thinking through things from your perspective. So I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for being on. How can people find you if they want to research you or, learn more about what you do? How can they find you?
Sure, vivekbedi.com. It's my first last name.com. Right now I'm spending quite a bit of time, as I said, advising, doing workshops, and really helping bring that big company culture and the startup culture together. So if anyone wants to reach me, vivekbedi.com or vivekbedi@gmail.com.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Vivek. This is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast. For more insights and ideas, please go to www.concilioteam.com, and we look forward to seeing you next time.